Hi everyone, I'm Amy Johnson-Crowe, and I am joined here today with Mary Tedesco, who is the co-host of Genealogy Roadshow and also the founder of Origins Italy.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so it's actually about those Italians that I want to talk to you about. So I like to tune in to my 2% trace of Greek and Italian heritage.
We'll take it.
All right, I will too.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah, all right. So when somebody finds out they have Italians or, they just know growing up that they
Sure.
are Italian, where do you get started? How do you find that Italian origin?
Amy, that's a fantastic question. So I would recommend that folks start at home. They go home, they ask maybe their older relatives, do you have any documents or letters or other information from Italy? You know, some people might have their grandmother's birth certificate right at home. So you want to gather all these Italian documents, maybe old letters and so forth, and gain as much insight about your Italian origins as you can. The next step after that is you want to start to ask your older relatives. Think your great aunt that you haven't seen since Christmas or Easter. You want to go and interview your great aunt or, your older cousin or older relative and say, tell me about the family in the old country. And this, of course, not only applies to Italian Americans, but anybody, with roots from somewhere else, whether it be Ohio or Russia or Italy. So it really applies to a lot of different folks. So once you've started at home, the next step is to really take your research online. So you have all this information that you've gathered, and now you want to find some more. So you can check out familysearch.org, look in the card catalog to see if your Italian ancestral town's records have been digitized yet. I know they're working very hard to do a lot of digitization, so if it's not online yet, just wait a few months, it might be up there.
It'll show up eventually.
Exactly. So check that catalog for microfilmed records or digitized records. So from there, of course, there's a lot of records that are not online for our Italian origins. From there, we really want to take our research on site to repositories. Like, for example, if your family immigrated to New York City, you may need to go on site or hire a researcher in New York to grab records that are not digitized and not online and not on microfilm. So you can really get the full picture of your story in the United States.
Okay.
So that's really how you get started.
All right. So it sounds like you don't want to just jump over to Italy. Italy's a big country. When we're looking at doing some on-site research here in the U.S.,
Yes.
what types of records should we be looking at? Because the census is usually just going to say Italy.
Correct.
So what types of records can we look at here in the U.S. that might give us a better idea of where in Italy?
That's a great question. So we want to go for the big guns first. We want to go for like immigration records and passenger lists. If your ancestor became a naturalized citizen of the United States, those records could be online or at the National Archive in a branch in your area. So those are records that usually have or could have indications of an ancestral town. The other records are like vital records. You can look for newspapers and obituaries to see if perhaps the ancestral town was mentioned in your great-grandfather's obituary in the newspaper. You can also do church records, of course. If your family happened to attend, for example, Italians, the local Catholic parish, the priest could have been Italian and there could be indications of where the family was from on one of the records. I have seen that. So there's a lot of great resources here in the US and you want to exhaust all of them, or as many as possible, of course, before crossing the pond. Because as genealogists, we're really gatherers of information. We're gatherers of the story. I want to hear the whole story. I want to know the whole story of our ancestors, not only in Italy, but also here in the United States, because that's a really important part of the picture.
It does give that full story.
360-degree genealogy, Amy.
Exactly. I like that take on it.
Yeah.
All right, Mary, if people want to find out more about you and the things that you do, where can they find you?
Great. Well, all over social media. You can start with my website, which is www.originsitaly.com. You can also find me on Twitter at Mary M. Tedesco, or on Facebook. Just type in Mary Tedesco and you'll see me smiling like this. That's my public Facebook page, and I would love you to follow that. Otherwise, there's Instagram at Origins Italy, just basically any social media. If you Google Origins Italy social media, they'll all come up on the website too.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for all of those great tips. I wish that I had more Italians that I could actually go and look for, but you've given us some wonderful tips on how to get started.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.
My pleasure.